Welcome to Digital Dentistry Decoded, the podcast where we dive into the future of dental technology and innovation. I'm Dr. Ahmad Al-Hassiny from the Institute of Digital Dentistry, and in today's episode titled 3Shape's Blueprint for the Digital Dental Practice of the Future, we're embarking on an enlightening journey. We'll be exploring how 3Shape is at the forefront of revolutionizing dental practices and labs with advanced technology and innovative solutions. Our special guest, Rune Fisker, a visionary in the field of digital dentistry, will share his insights on the transformative role of digitalization and AI in reshaping the dental industry. Join us as we unravel the complexities of digital transformation and discover what the future holds for dental professionals. Stay tuned for an episode brimming with expert insights, trend analysis, and a glimpse into the evolving landscape of digital dental care. We are very lucky today to have someone who is essentially the face of 3Shape. We see him in all the videos and in all the conferences and expos. Mr. Rune Fisker. Welcome, Rune.
Thank you so much, and thanks for the invitation. I love the initiatives here to decode digital dentistry.
Thank you. And before we start, this is probably something that the audience need to know. Is it Rune or Rune?
The real pronunciation in Danish is actually Rune, but it's very hard for English speakers to pronounce that. So Rune is the best pronunciation, but don't worry about it.
Okay. Rune it is. Now, those of you who may be living under a rock, who maybe haven't heard of you or haven't seen you in a lot of the 3Shape promotional material, please just introduce yourself. Tell us about yourself and your role in the company in 3Shape. I know you actually have a very, very rich history with the company. I was fortunate to visit Rune in 3Shape HQ just in March. So please, the floor is yours. Tell us about yourself.
Thank you so much. So I'm today at 3Shape, I'm SVP of Product Strategy. What does that mean? It means that I'm responsible for understanding the customer and designing the roadmaps and our innovation portfolio, of course, together with a lot of great people in 3Shape. But as Ahmad is hinting, I also have a long history with 3Shape. I was actually the first employee, starting in a one-room apartment here downtown Copenhagen. So it's just been a fantastic journey building a company. At that time, we were 3 people, right? And now we are more than 2,000. And of course, have a significant footprint on digital dentistry, both in the clinic, but also in the lab, and changing dentistry on a daily basis together with many other good people in the industry here, right? It is exciting. I have an engineering background, PhD, and I actually also taken an MBA years ago. But today, I spend all my time in digital dentistry every day, in and out, and I love it.
That is quite incredible. So you said you were one of the first of 3 employees at 3Shape and now over 2,000. I mean, that is really incredible. And also the history that you guys have, because many people don't actually realize 3Shape didn't start with dentistry in mind. I think it was audiology.
Correct. Yeah. We started the first 5 years was hearing aids and audiology. Yeah.
And you guys disrupted that market with some digital technology, I believe, and then the focus was now, and I think a large part of your company now is full digital dentistry.
I mean, 99% of the revenue today is digital, is dentistry. So we consider ourselves a dental technology company.
Incredible. So I guess you're the right person to ask because you've seen dentistry change over the years. I mean, you guys had the Trios 1, 2, 3, 4, and now 5. And so you've really watched this industry change, and you were there right at the start when people were digitizing in a way. And so one of my questions really is, what's some of your thoughts about what's happening in dentistry? You know, these changes that are happening in dentistry in the last 5-10 years, you know, share some thoughts with me about that. And also for the company itself, what's your vision for dentists and for dentistry and patient care in the next 5 years? Because there's been an explosion of digital tech, especially in the last 5 years. How do you see the next 5 years playing out?
Yeah, so you can say that I think there are happening 2 major things in dentistry globally. There's the digitalization, which of course what we talk about here. And then there's the a very significant DSO trend also that actually impact digital dentistry. So we see consolidation going on with the DSOs and them taking over maybe as much as 20-25% of the industry. But that's not what we're ready to talk about here today. But that's just the other major trend.
That is a very
Next to
interesting discussion, though. That is a great discussion. What's happening in
yeah,
dentistry with DSOs and corporatization of dentistry.
yeah,
Like
yeah.
you say, digitization.
Digitization. So, of course, what we have seen, if you look at the last 5-10 years, is a digital revolution, of course, going on, I would say, even more on lab side, where we started in 2005, which you can basically not run a lab today without it being digitalized, right? And then you can see the way, and that's really what have changed on the digital side the last 5-10 years, is that the way we produce restorations, right? Or auto appliances, all the treatments we put in to the mouth of the patient, all those that were manually made are largely today being digital made. So there's been a tremendous change there, originally coming from the lab, but of course now also really moving into the clinic with intraoral scanners, with milling machines in the clinic. And now we see this big influx of 3D printers also for that early adapter. So there's a whole transformation going on there. And of course, but that's more looking into the future, we really see AI coming in. And there we are only scratching the surface, right, on the whole AI part.
Now, you've mentioned a couple of really, really interesting things. Number one is the digitization of labs, because we will have some technicians listening in the audience. And so from what you've seen, and I think anecdotally everyone agrees, labs digitize much faster than dental clinics. Is that correct?
Much faster, and also much earlier. You can say now there's a big wave of intraoral scanners coming in, it's growing extremely fast, and we see penetration getting as high as 50% on the iOS in selected markets. But if you look into the lab, we are on 80-90% penetration on the more mature markets in terms of having scanners and CAD. There's still around 1/3 of all cases that are not done digitally in the lab, but it's mainly centered around removable cases and selected other indications, and it will change. So digitalization on the lab side is significant further ahead than what we see on the clinic side. And you can basically not run a lab today without being digitalized.
Incredible. And you would be the right person to ask and get the information, because a lot of people talk, but I really think someone like you, because of 3Shape and 3Shape Communicate, you see the data. You see what doctors are doing, what they're scanning for, how much is digital, how much is analog. So it's incredible information you're sharing with us. You mentioned something about 3D printing. So in your eyes, 3D printing is going to be incorporated into a dental clinic much more than in milling machines. Is that what you see happening?
Yeah, I think we see a swaps. Of course, we saw people buying milling machines, particularly the Xerox system. I know you're also a user there, right? We see a big swap from people buying much less mills. And here, as we talked about earlier, adapters, really buying printers, right? And of course, no one will buy a printer or mill without an iOS. So we see there's this natural journey from dentist. You haven't had an iOS for a period of time. And then we see then they want to take the next step on the digital journey. And today people are really buying printers more than mills.
Do you think it's just purely because of cost? Because that's everyone's sentiment. It's just printers are much cheaper than milling machines. Do you think that's the reason why people are adopting them more, or is there other things that we're not seeing?
I think that it's back to what the indication should be 3D print. Still the main indication to print is models. That's the main indication we print on the clinic side today, if you look across the board. But of course, we print guides, we print the splints. And then, of course, the real big question, when and if will the final crown be good enough to be printed? Of course, if you follow some of the groups on social media, you will see people are printing widely crowns. I would say it's still very early days for the final crown. The 10th crown you can definitely print, but the final crown is still early days. But it is one of the biggest questions, I would say, especially at the material side. It is the biggest question. Will 3D printed final crowns be good enough? Not just for a very economy crown, but also from a premium crown. And how deep will that penetrate into the clinic side? And here, I honestly have a little bit mixed feelings. Of course, early adapters will adapt, but there are still many clinics. Do they really want to have an in-house lab and be technicians? I'm actually very skeptical about that, how much dentists want to be technicians and run an in-house lab themselves, especially the smaller clinics. If you're a bigger clinic, like yourself, you should almost have an in-house lab, right? But for smaller clinics, it's still debatable.
And I think you bring up great points, because on social media and Facebook, we get almost a skewed image of dentistry. We just get the early adopters, the super high-tech dentists. They're usually the loudest on Facebook. And Obviously, there's some companies now that are really pushing final crowns. I've tried it. I am on the same boat as you. You know, when I compare it to an Emax restoration, I have to scratch my head and think, is a printed crown really the best solution, or are we just doing it because we can? But 3D printing aside, I think it kind of leads us to, what do you think is going to be some of the biggest shifts in dentistry in the future? Like, we've had one big shift, which was scanners, and now we're getting a shift in the AI space. I think that might be the next big thing. And it's quite curious for me because you mentioned that dentists, they don't want to be technicians. But of course, companies like yourself have something like 3Shape Automate, which makes it so they almost don't have to be technicians. Do you think that's the next big shift? Is that AI, or is it printing materials, or what do you feel like is the next big thing?
I think there are 5 trends altogether, but there's 3 which is particularly active right now. So of course we see the mass adoption of intraoral scanners, right? Where we are now on this 25 to 30% global penetration in clinics. And we see some countries, including at least Australia, is very high penetrated, but US otherwise is at least plus 50%, right? So we really see that going very, very deep now, and we're still seeing the market growing, and we see a lot of people adapting this technology, both buying a scanner, but we also see an increasing amount of second scanners in clinics, also like your own clinic, right? So that's that main driver. Then we see 3D printing, as we already discussed, coming in on the back of iOS. And then, of course, we see AI. 3Shape has been working on AI for more than 7 years now, and there's a lot of noise around AI because everyone says AI. What is really true AI and what is having the massive impact is using what is called predictive AI. And that is the big way. You take a big data set. Previously, you can classify it, but now you can also create, whether it's crowns or it's summaries or other actions around it, right? And it's impressive. Some of my colleagues were just out with Microsoft also here to get a deep rundown on what they're doing a whole day. And it's impressive what they do with AI. I mean, you can have a big meeting like this and you can ask the AI to make a summary afterwards, and it'll build a perfect summary. And there's much more coming on really intelligent AI, right? So there's no doubt that short term is iOS, as we are here right now. Then I think 3D printing going to be interesting, but then the really impact will be around the AI. And it's so funny because I've actually been lecturing on trends for quite some years. First I say AI is coming, then I say AI is here, and that this was gonna change the world, and it's been the most important technology for the last couple of years. But I have never foreseen how good ChatGPT are. I mean, if you haven't played with, I would recommend anyone in the world to play with ChatGPT because it is eye-opener. What it can do. And we were also playing with it together, right? But it's a true eye-opener.
The audience sitting, me and Rune were having dinner actually in Denmark, a really nice dinner. And in front of Rune, I opened ChatGPT. And what did we do? Like create a 3Shape rap song, Eminem style or something. And then it did it perfectly. It's mind-blowing.
It is totally mind-blowing. And of course, that will come in digital dentistry. And of course, where will that then hit? I think that's a super interesting discussion. Of course, we have the whole CAD/CAM. I mean, we run AI and the scanners today. We have done more than 1 million cases. We see it been accepted and downloaded. Cases mean crowns, so automatic crown to sound. We see a very big adoption of that and accelerating. But of course, there's also one of the other hot trends is to look at X-ray images and diagnose that. And of course, you could lift that to an even higher level if you generally look at medical and combine those medical conditions with X-rays, with intraoral scans, and then really trying to predict more intelligently what conditions and how you should treat. So I think this is super exciting. Of course, people are very visionary, but even on short term, some of these, I like the term called second opinion that one of the X-ray AI companies has, because currently it will be a second opinion, but of course, will it turn into more than a second opinion eventually, right?
Yeah, I mean, AI doesn't have bad days, you know?
Exactly.
It's very consistent, and it's quite interesting. I mean, again, I have a million topics, and I want to ask you, because you're such a wealth of knowledge in this space. But you mentioned AI, so I'm getting ahead of myself because I wanted to ask you what 3Shape has been up to. But with AI, do you see that being cooked into the scanner software, or should it stay on the PMS software? Because I see some scanner companies, they're bringing in caries detection into the scanner software.
Yeah.
Is that like a vision for 3Shape or not really?
But I mean, the AI is already in the software, right? We do AI every day. We do AI everything you scan. We do AI to remove soft tissue and tongue. We do AI when we do treatment simulation. We segment all the teeth, so we can segment all the teeth and classify them. We have AI in more or less all applications today, right? Then it's correct when we come into more diagnostic space, which what you are referring to. Some companies, we are of course having our own thoughts there as well. So the short answer is, of course, there will be AI on X-rays, there'll be AI on intraoral scans, and so on, right?
You see there's the future. Definitely the future of dentistry. AI has to be part of it.
Yeah, I mean, I think AI has to the future of every part of our life. It will be part of it. But I'm generally a technology optimist. I think it will bring a lot of good benefits, not just because we are fascinated about the technology, but because it will be a good second opinion. It will give you a good input. It will allow us to make things more effectively. Also, there's no doubt that the speak recognition is getting so good. So you will speak to your practice management system, right? Instead of taking notes. So there's so much where AI will be improving the daily workflows and the daily experiences, making life easier, right?
More efficient. I feel like what AI did was just increase everyone's efficiency.
This for sure. I think the primary number one is for sure efficiency, but it's also generating better results, right? We have a study coming out which have not been published yet, where the university in Brazil has compared automate to manual designs, and blind compared as a blind comparison, and there automate wins, right?
You're joking. That's scary.
No. Yeah, it is a little bit scary, but not surprisingly. We talk a lot to the major DSOs around the world, and they have a lot of newly educated, not so trained dentists. And of course, they are giving them support tools and building confidence with them.
And I guess for those out there who haven't heard of Automate, or they may not know, I mean, you'll be better to explain it. But guys, 3Shape Automate is a completely open software that's browser-based. And what it is basically automated crown designs. You pay a few bucks. It goes to the 3Shape server. You upload your scans. You can do it from any scanner, and then it will automatically design you crowns. A lot of people get scared of that idea, but you can modify the design. You got some basic tools, modify the margin. You can reject the design if you don't like it. And that is what me and Rune are talking about with 3Shape Automate. It's basically start to finish automated crown design almost.
Yeah.
I have a case that I did, and it was mind-blowing. It's like you see a big change in dentistry happening soon.
I also think people are too scared about it. And of course, the labs are a little bit wide from thinking about what does that mean for us, right? But you should remember when we started out doing CAD/CAM, it took 10 minutes to scan and design a crown, right? Yeah. And not even a crown, that was a coping. Inside-out coping, you had to hand veneer. And that has gone down now. So if you want to do not just a coping, but a crown today, you can scan it in a few minutes on a gypsum model, and you can design it in a few minutes. So there's always been this efficiency gain and compression of time. And this is just, in my opinion, the next step for that. And of course, there'll be a big difference when it comes to simple indication and advanced indications here, right?
Totally. But like it will be a while until an AI can design something like a denture or an all-onyx restoration.
Exactly. Right? I'm not sure we will ever be able to get improved first guesses, improved initial guesses, but there will still be manual modifications to it.
For a single crown, it's pretty, I mean, I hate to say, because I don't want to offend any technicians, but it's pretty straightforward. A single crown, a good prep. Yeah. Look at CEREC, exactly.
Yes, CEREC has been doing it. I don't think the CEREC crown is at the level of Automate crown, but CEREC has still been doing it for years, right? Mm-hmm. And I think one other benefit, which I actually also think that AI is quite interesting for, and we generally see digitalization benefit, is that you can delegate work, right? There's no clinic that does a lot of scans on iOS that doesn't let the assistant or hygienist scan, right? So there's so many opportunities to build, to delegate. And we see a global shortage of dentists in many countries. So really being able to delegate it to assistants or hygienists, also making their work more interesting. There's also an opportunity, right? Solving the shortage for dentists. And eventually, of course, it will somewhat also lead to options for offering less expensive dentistry and make it more accessible for some group on the more economy side. Not meaning that still we're having a high profit as a dentist, but making it more accessible for everybody and this was every patient in the world, right?
And it's like what we said at the start. The funny thing is that when we look at automate, technicians think, oh no, this is going to maybe harm my job. But it's like what we said at the start. It's actually the technicians who are digitizing. Like you have the information. I think more labs than dentists use automate. Is that correct?
It's mainly a lab product today. Yeah. And that's where the volume is, right? So it's mainly a lab product today. We are putting it on very good workflow now in 3 years also, but it is mainly a lab product today because that's where the volume is.
Totally. I mean, look, I love to talk about AI and technology, but we don't want to turn it into an AI discussion for an hour. But let's talk about some exciting things that the company has been working on. Obviously, you guys released Trios 5. Congratulations. Yep. I hear that's been going crazy.
Going amazing, beyond all our expectations. And feedback is great on it.
I'm really happy for you guys. I've been using it for 8 months. I think it's an amazing product. I'm going to release a review on it. It's kind of what we expect at this point from the company, really. Your last 2 scanners were amazing. So everyone just expects a really high quality product and you guys delivered. So what about, is there any new launches or kind of any exciting things that you can share with us? Something that's interesting that maybe you haven't shared before?
Yeah, I'll say we have more than 600 developers. So of course, a lot is cooking. And the majority of them are dedicated to the clinic side today, right? So we have a massive workforce. Of course, people are most excited about hardware launches, you could say, because that's a little bit like I always compare to the iPhone. People are very excited about new iPhones, maybe less about new software. But with that is said, it's clear that the software, as you also know from the phone, is really what changes in the daily work, right? It's really the software feature. So of course, we're constantly releasing software. So it's coming a new 3 software version coming out within the next few weeks that actually, the most thing is that it improves, for instance, I know you've also been asking for that, the 180-degree swap on the 3Shape's 5. That is coming in a few weeks. Might take a month before it gets down to you. But it's also about making great products. So that's why Apple's such a cool product, is because they also take care of all the small bits and pieces. Of course, we also have a number of there's new lab software coming, dental system release. We also had a couple of good releases just before summer holiday here, and completely new treatment simulation. So when you can take a scan and simulate your auto simulation, which is actually a very popular app used very widely by a lot of people to simulate before and after. And that's radically improved in terms of the setup and aesthetics. So I know you always are excited for new groundbreaking things, which is also what catch on social media and so on. But for the general user, I think many of these continuous improvements will keep being exciting. And of course, we have a range of them lined up. And again, hardware is a little bit infrequent, but software is coming.
The next couple of years is a software really focused. Let's say that.
We will also improve the hardware, of course.
You guys released the lab scanner, the new one. There's the Trios 5.
And of course, as you are aware, that the move is not available for Trios 5 right now.
Yeah, not yet.
Of course, that gap will also soon be closed.
Please add a battery somehow to the move. I know it might be too late to ask. Please.
We are fully aware. It will not be the first update, but we are fully aware.
I was going to ask you, because I know 3Shape, in 2019 IDS, you guys showcased that face scanner. It looked like an OPG machine.
We showcased the first face scanner in dentistry in 2009, I think it was.
Wow. What happened to that thing?
It wasn't the market, but it was too expensive. The technology was gotten good enough, and that is still a little bit of discussion, how much are we needing face scans? I'm actually a believer in face scans, but the clinical value, at least outside dentures and all on X style restorations, I still think is debatable.
Totally.
And I actually found it because there was this Belouse 3D app some years ago that actually pioneered face scanning because it became accessible. It was actually fairly good results. People loved it. All the speakers and the KOLs around the world loved it, including myself, right? But the clinical use, they basically exited the industry because of lack of clinical use. But of course, I'm not a big believer, but you see some people having an external face scanner that like a number of companies has that. I believe it would be an app, and there are multiple apps coming as a phone app. There's a little 3D scanner sitting up here in the phone.
How it unlocks your phone?
It's the face recognition, yes. The face recognition is basically built on a small 3D scanner. And we need that to become having a good scanning app. There's a couple of companies, both third party and some of our competitors working on that. And I think that's the right way to go to build an app there. And then I think it will find its way I don't think short to mid-term it will be medium sensible use. And also think what's also been discussed in some social media groups that you see this a little bit peaked. But let's see, there will come some improvements out for some of the apps here in the fall. Let's see it will pick up again, or it's just more a podium story.
The future of face scanners is a really good app like Ballast was.
Yeah, without any doubt. There's a couple of brands out there today. I don't believe in that. This is good enough. It's just about building a good workflow, and it's so accessible, right?
Everyone has one.
Everyone has one, and the quality is for sure good enough. It's more about building the workflow, and it can be done. Again, it's the good old discussion. Should 3Shape focus our effort on early adapters, KOLs, or should we focus on the early majority and mass market, right? And that's a balance we already have.
I think that's what every digital dentistry company is facing now.
Of course. And you can say some of our competitors, honestly, I think are too focused on early adapters more than making it easy to the mass market, but that's their choice.
Okay, so launcher side, obviously the software game is the big thing. So what about Automate? Is that something that you see going into the Trios software?
It's coming not one day. It will release here later. So we'll have Automate on Trios late summer.
That's incredible.
No, so that's going to be a major. And then generally, I say, talking to a very overseeing thing is actually, one thing is launching new software, but actually on a weekly basis, new connections are built in 3Shape, right? So we have 3Shape Unite, as you know, and there's a whole team of people that does nothing else than work with labs and clear aligner manufacturers and other third-party innovative companies to provide access to workflows. So every week, new partnerships, new apps in the 3Shape Unite is showing up. Also, one particular thing which we also previewed at Ideas Produce, 3Shape Produce, which is coming out now also here.
Has it been launched or is it just in August?
It is, end of August, start September, it will launch. So that's also coming out now where you can do an AI design, for instance, for a model. And then with a single click, you can send that to a 3D printer, right?
So for people who don't know what 3Shape produces, it essentially is, and correct me if I'm wrong, it's essentially a integration platform within the 3Shape software. Not quite a platform, but within the software, you're going to be able to talk to your mills, your printers, all within the software. Is that correct?
Yes, I like to paint the picture that, when you have a Word document, you press print on the bottom, right? And it's sent to whatever printer you have, right? And this is exactly what you want to build. You have a 3D design file, a CAD file, model or crown or whatever it is. On a single bottom, you press print or produce, and it will basically then send it to the printer and the mill. And this is very mature. We are completing beta test, and we are planning to launch with 7 different partner milling and printing partners coming out now here.
I don't know how you guys achieved this, to be honest, because I don't think people realize how much of a big mammoth job that is to make that work, because obviously every printer and every CAM software and every mill, and it's all slightly different. I mean, so you guys are targeting some 7 main partners and you're going to increase that scope?
Yeah, that is basically a standard API that milling and 3D printing partners can integrate, a 3Shape API that basically sends, of course, the STL file, but also all the information on materials, indications, and so on. So every printer and milling company in the world can conceptually integrate to that API. Of course, when you then combine that with 3Shape Automate, so you have 3Shape Automate, automatically design your crown,
that's
or
crazy.
model, then with a single click, you can send it to the mill or the printer. And we are very close with Sprint Rate to actually make even the printer that you go straight to the printer and press print and start, right?
They're one of the main players in this crown printing market.
I mean, I would say that they're even the leader on it, at least taking the most of both steps.
Very much so. They've been focusing on that for some time. Yeah, that sounds amazing. And I think one of the main strengths, I mean, I'm in South Korea at the moment, visiting some digital dentistry companies, and some also do automated designs. You're not the only one, and I believe more and more people will do it. But I feel like what's really interesting when you look at 3Shape, why I think it has a significant advantage is you already have the brand. I mean, it's a respected, highly valued by dentists brand. And also you have the scanner. That's really the difference, is that you're offering the whole workflow, not just here's a separate software and we can design your crowns. It's super powerful to automate straight into the scanner. I think that's huge.
But it is almost as of course, it takes actually a long time to do the right crown from a clinical point of view. It's very easy to put a crown in. We see also some of this, there's a few cloud-based CAD softwares now, including one in Korea. Another thing is to do a good crown on every case with 92% acceptance rate. But equally important is honestly the workflow. If there's no workflow, then yes, then the early 3Shape adapters might adapt it. But if you don't have a workflow, it's going to be super hard, right? So
Good.
Workflows is key. And we also see that on Automate, that the success of Automate is driven by, of course, clinical performance and business model, but also by workflow.
As you mentioned at the start, for people who didn't hear the figure, over 1 million crown designs accepted. This is not some new software, guys, where 3Shape just came up with it now and they're testing it. Like 1 million designs.
Yeah, so there's a very big difference between dreaming and claiming to actually doing. And this is the true proof. You can try to ask how many crowns that have been downloaded by some of the other new cloud AI-based softwares. But of course, I mean, there's competition and there should be competition. It drives the market forward. It gives better solution, keeps everyone on their toes. And I basically think a life without competition would be boring. So it's good for everybody, right?
I agree. And I think just one more topic on the model builder. So your model builder is completely automated. Is there plans to have some more tools in there, or is it always that's the vision for the model builder? We don't want to have a whole bunch of tools and options.
Actually, I don't know if you have seen that also, but we are coming now with what we call Model Builder Express, which are far more tools. So that's actually going to be released with Dental System, which is the lab software here, which is basically at the next generation of model maker, where there will be far more tools in it. So you can actually edit it. It will still be AI. So we believe in a new paradigm for CAD design, which is AI first and inspect and correct. So there will be exactly tools now to inspect and correct it, coming first to the lab and then will be transferred to the clinic here in the fall. So yes, there will be a lot of cool stuff going on there.
There is a lot going on. There's a lot of software coming, which is exciting. And do you have any plans to open it at all to outside scanners or no?
Well, you can say it's open in the lab side, right? I mean, of course, labs get scans from all different kinds of scanners. So,
I mean, the chairside. Yeah. The lab one is totally open, but the chairside software at the moment, like I can't take a scan from another scanner to use model builder. Is there any plans, or you want this exclusive?
I mean, we are open for it, and we just don't see the workflow will be the leading workflow, right? That way around. So it's more a focus thing than a philosophical thing. It's not because we want to not build workflows for others. It's just what's the main workflow, and it's back to workflows, right?
Awesome. And so I guess the next question is, I mean, it's kind of like an open mic question. Is there any other interesting things happening? We talked about Tradeoffs a lot. We talked about the software. Is there any other interesting things happening for 3Shape that you want to share, or we can just move along?
No, I actually think there's some really interesting things happening. So, of course, we have been talking about innovations so far in technology, and that is, of course, what both you and my heart is passionate about, right? And we love it. But we actually do a lot on the customer experience side, also customer care also. So I don't know if you're even aware, but we are onboarding a lot of customers by 3Shape now. So today, when you buy a scanner in Europe, 5 biggest countries are in the US and Canada, then we will actually onboard the customer. So we will do all the training. And of course, when we are into early majority, then it's not just today, just buy a scanner and, can find out using it, right? Like a car, you can drive the car, right? You need some training. And we have actually taken responsibility for that and to really ensure that the customer have a great starting experience and really we see the usage and the success. And we're actually also supporting a lot of customers in these countries directly to, again, secure the customer experience. So I think that is something radically new, which only not that many people are aware about. So it's not just about making cool products. It's also about successfully implementing them into the clinic. Most important is the start. But of course, also continuous support and securing usage successfully. So I think we spend a lot of energy and time on that. We have many hundred support people now in different centers around the world to drive this.
Awesome. So really focusing on the customer journey, not just selling units.
That would be a header for many of our internet slides. Or at least a header. Exactly, focus on the complete customer journey and really thinking about also the early majority. I mean, the mass market.
Now there's a big wave. You're seeing it with the Trios 5 sales. There's a big wave of people buying. I mean, is it true that you still can't keep up with orders?
No, we have finally here over the summer now got the production off running. So now the factory is humming. There's no problems anymore. We are down to a few weeks to delivery time. But it took almost a year, right? At least 8 months to get that up to the scale we needed.
That's a good problem to have.
It's a good problem. I can tell you a few of my colleagues thought it was a little bit stressful, but let's not touch on that. Someday you have to come and visit the production in Poland. It's amazing.
Is it in Poland?
Yeah, it's in Poland. It's just across the border. Just across the border from Berlin.
We'll have to do it in IDS 2025.
Latest, yes.
Sure, that's amazing. Yeah, I'd love to see it. I guess Trios 3 is the biggest seller so far.
Well, it's a good mix, but it's centered around either Trios 5 or Trios 3. Of course, over time, Trios 3 has been the most sold scanner in iOS history. But of course, the split now is quite favorable to Trios 5.
And how have people been finding the wireless technology? What's the customer
honestly,
feedback?
It's like your cell phone. No one talks about it anymore. It's just working. Actually, been surprisingly good feedback on share. So Trios Share has been where you can just scan via the Wi-Fi and just move the scanner around. There's really a group of customers that love that because it gives so much flexibility.
I'll be really curious to see in the next year or two what the next hardware change for scanners, because I feel like we're getting to the point of, it's almost like cell phones, they're getting small, they're getting wireless, they're getting extra buttons to use the workflow. I don't know what else you can do.
We have many good ideas, but
we'll have to wait and see.
Ready. Yeah, exactly.
All right. So one question about 3Shape. So the market's obviously changing, and we can see that. And we see that since the CEREC days when it was CEREC and Plan Mecca and scanners were all closed and now they're all open. And we see that with subscription fees where, famously 3Shape had forced subscription fees and then you guys accepted. There's a market shift and now you've allowed Trios only, no subscription fees. How is the company? I don't think it's any secret there's a price war happening. And there's a big price war, and there's a lot of Korean scanners, a lot of Chinese scanners. I think over 20 iOSs made just in China. And I know you can't compare that, you're not comparing apples and apples because not every scanner is the same, but you are getting this huge influx of decent speed scanners. The software most of the time is not very good, but decent speed, super low cost. And it must be something, you guys are very intelligent at 3Shape. It must be something that you see on the horizon. What's your kind of thoughts on that and how you're going to combat this?
No, I think about this every day, right? How to be competitive. And at 3Shape wanna be, I think there are two major things here, right? We need to innovate. We need to create better products that the customer wants and needs. And then we need to be competitive in the price, on a price point, right? 3Shape was never born to be number two. We want to be the leader. We want to lead in market share. So innovation, competitiveness, and you can say we are ready to take the necessary steps. Also, you saw, to your big surprise, that we made the subscription optionally. So we want to give people options. It's the most advanced product on the market or is different products at the right price points, but there's no alternative to be competitive. And then, of course, again, there are different needs in the market. Whether you are early adapter, early majority, whether you are in Germany, Denmark, US, China, or other emerging markets. So, of course, we need to build solutions across that. Again, competition drives the world forward, and I'm still very optimistic on the overall iOS market.
I strongly believe I agree with everything you've said, especially with the competition part. And it's almost like I believe that, I don't know how truthful this is, but when 3Shape came on the market, I think that was one of the primary reasons why CEREC opened up, because CEREC was completely closed. You couldn't even export STLs.
Exactly.
And then 3Shape came on and then they opened up. And then, I agree. Competition is great. And it's great for the dentists. The end user, they're very lucky these days. They get a lot of options, a lot of good prices these days, especially considering when we got into scanning over 10 years ago, there wasn't this sort of options. Now, I think the other thing we really need to discuss is, what about 3D printing, milling? Is there any vision for the company to get into that space in terms of the hardware side, or not at this stage?
I think there's some good mills and a lot of good printers out there. And by the way, I believe the printers is more material game than it is a printer game today.
I agree.
So currently our strategy is to integrate like with 3Shape Produce, and build the best integrations. Of course, do world-class scanning, AI design, and then build integrations with the best partners in the industry. So partnerships is, in my opinion.
So what about milling versus 3D printing? There's a lot of talk about that now and everyone's comparing it. What are your thoughts about that? Is it something that I personally think a lot of people are like, printers are going to replace milling machines? I don't believe that for a second. I think both technologies will work in a lab setting. You will have both.
I mean, there's no doubt today you need both because the different indication in the best possible way. Of course, over time, will 3D printing get better and better for sure. We saw splints couldn't be printed, could only be milled some years ago. Then came Keystone Flex there and totally disrupting the market. And now almost 95 or 99% of all splints are basically printed today. So with the right material, yes. But when you talk to the material scientists, it's hard to see. They don't see especially the ceramic mill crown being replaced with a printed crown. Will that progress and how will that exactly end? I think is super, super interesting. But of course, more will be 3D printed, potentially, ultimately, everything, but it's still very open. And I don't think we are there today on the materials.
I have to agree with what you said at the start. It really is a materials game. A lot of people talk about how do I choose a 3D printer? It doesn't actually matter the printer per se. It's what materials it gives you access to. So I think, and a lot of printers are closed in this market. And I think to survive in this market, you have to open up. What are your thoughts?
If I should give people buying a printer only one advice, never buy a printer that's closed because there's going to come so many materials out and it's not very clear who is going to win that. So I will recommend everyone to buy an open printer to get access to the whole range of materials because it's a material game and that's where we're going to see the most disruptive innovation coming, in my opinion.
Or at least a printer company that's validating third-party resins.
Exactly. That's the preferred setup, of course.
I'm very mindful of your time, and so far it's been a fantastic discussion, Rune. I appreciate your time. I guess to summarize and to end this podcast session on a good note, if you could give some advice for dentists and dental techs right now, because like you say, digitization is happening. It's all around us. Everyone's talking about it. It's pretty much the biggest hype topic still in dentistry now. However, we're not at 100% digitization, like you mentioned. We're probably closer to 20 to 30%. Emerging markets, some regions even less. Even some developed markets like New Zealand, I know, is not highly digitized. So what's your advice for dentists and dental technicians who are facing this? If you could give them some advice.
I mean, I would really say get started on the digital journey, right? I mean, it is unavoidable. I don't think there's a future without digitalization, whether you are a clinic or a lab, right? So get started, but also take it step by step. Some people are buying intraoral scanner, a printer, and a mill, and do everything at the same time. It's much better to take it step by step and select the technologies that are really creating value for you, getting properly trained and have properly support. And also there is some learning barriers, but you need to invest a little bit to get over those learning barriers, but then you will see very significant benefits.
Great words and great advice. But there you guys have it from the VP product strategy at 3Shape, one of the biggest, if not the biggest digital dentistry companies on the planet. Rune, I just want to thank you. Thank you for your time. I know you're a busy man and hopefully we have you back on again someday and we can discuss some more. Maybe in a few months, maybe a year, we'll see what's changed.
I will not to do that. And congratulations on the new podcast initiative here. I really think it's great and looking forward to hear some of the other podcasts. I'm sure there'll be some interesting ones there.
For sure. And like you say, it's all about integrations, connections, partnerships in this industry. I feel like that's really what companies need and that's what dentists need as end users. But once again, thank you, Rune.
Thank you so much.
As we wrap up today's insightful discussion, I'd like to give you a sneak peek into our next episode of Digital Dentistry Decoded. In our upcoming podcast, we're venturing into the groundbreaking realm with the future of 3D printing in dentistry. Join me, Dr. Ahmad Al-Hassiny, as I engage in a fascinating conversation with Amir Mansouri, the CEO of SprintRay. We'll dive into how SprintRay is leading the charge in revolutionizing dental care through innovative 3D printing technology. Our discussion will cover the journey of SprintRay in the dental industry, the transformative impact of 3D printing in dental practices, and the future trends in dental technology that are shaping the way we approach patient care. We'll explore the role of material science in advancing dental applications and how SprintRay is making strides in workflow automation to enhance the efficiency and precision of dental procedures. Amir will also shed light on the marketing power of 3D printing technology in attracting patients and setting dental practices apart. This episode is a must listen for anyone interested in the intersection of dentistry and cutting-edge technology. So stay tuned for an episode that promises not only to be informative, but also a glimpse into the future of digital dentistry. Don't miss out this exciting exploration into the world of dental 3D printing, where innovation meets practicality, right here on Digital Dentistry Decoded. That's it for this episode of the Digital Dentistry Decoded podcast. Thanks so much for listening, and a special thank you for Rune Fisker for joining me today, and make sure to check out 3Shape and their great range of scanners and software. If you enjoyed the show, remember to rate and review us wherever you get your podcasts. Be sure to sign up to our free digital dentistry courses at instituteofdigitaldentistry.com and follow us in your favorite podcast app so you can listen to our next episode. The digital dentistry revolution continues, and we're here to keep you at the forefront. You've been listening to Digital Dentistry Decoded. I'm Dr. Ahmad Al-Hassiny, helping you stay ahead of the curve in this dynamic world of digital dentistry. Thanks for listening.